Midnight Motorist is the most confusing game in FNAF history. There's no debate to even be had about that, and for a while, people thought they had come up with the best theory. The idea that Mustard Man and William Afton were one and the same was basically accepted as fact by a lot of people, and even I bought into it, but now, I think that I've come up with a better solution. So, to give you a full idea of the original theory, I'll quickly run it back for you. I'm sure you don't need a full breakdown of the minigame by now, because its gameplay has been discussed to death, so we'll skip to the part in the house. The theory claims that this is the Afton house, and that you play as a drunken William Afton, coming home to tell off his son after killing Charlie Emily in a drunken rage. And the son that he's coming home to be even more abusive to is Crying Child. When he walks in, Michael Afton is watching TV and tells him not to be too hard on Crying Child, but William doesn't take that advice on board, and when Cece's door is locked, he goes around the house from outside, only to find out that Cece has broken his window and escaped. There are obviously more aspects to this, but those are the basics. It was quite convincing with every detail taken into account, but some things didn't sit right with me. For one, why would a crying mess of a child take the risk of disobeying his clearly abusive father just to run away to a restaurant that he likes? If he's so terrified of the animatronics and there is proof of one of the Springlock suits being outside his window, then how would he be able to bring himself to run past it when he is shown in FNAF 4 to have a breakdown when he is within 5 feet of Fredbear? It just makes no sense looking back on it. So let me present my alternative version to you, where William Afton is involved, just not in a visible or playable capacity. Let me make one thing clear from the off. This house is not the Afton house. I think we can all agree with that. I believe that the house we see depicted as the Afton house in the FNAF 4 minigames is canonically how it looks. It leads onto a street, the windows look onto the sidewalk. That directly contradicts the house in Midnight Motorist, which is surrounded by forest, and that leads me to believe that they're completely different houses. Focusing on the map for a second, I want to take a look at the footprints next to the smashed window. These big footprints, I'm convinced, belong to Spring Bonnie. More specifically, William Afton inside of the Spring Bonnie suit. He convinced the child inside the house to follow him back to the pizzeria with the promise of a birthday party. Oh, but I hear you calling this theory dead on arrival because of the fact it's raining, but the file name is Later That Night. It's clearly implied that Mustard Man has been gone for a bit of time, giving William a decent window to snatch the child. The weather works in mysterious ways, and living in Scotland, I know how quickly rain can come out of nowhere. I think that the file name implies that this kidnapping was done much earlier in the evening, and we're seeing the aftermath in the father's initial reaction. Some people that buy into this theory I'm presenting believe that the victim is one of the missing children from the original MCI. I'm not entirely sure I believe that, because as far as we're aware, those kids were all taken at Freddy's, so I think this is just to show the levels that William would go to in order to get kids for his experiments, whether that be remnant or otherwise. I think what adds to this being a showcase of his depravity rather than another MCI recreation is because of the fact that the Spring Bonnie suit is hinted to have been outside. Knowing that it functions through spring locks, that is incredibly dangerous because of the chance of sudden rain, and William has to have known that. I think that this actually adds credit to my point about the weather, as I think the fact it's raining later that night is meant to tell us how close William came to being spring-locked just to get another child for his sick plan. And on the final text of the minigame, when Mustard Man says that he is off to that place again, that indicates how much his son loved Freddy's. If he loved it as much as it seems, if he saw one of his favourite characters outside of his window with promises of cake and a party, then of course he wouldn't be able to resist. And Afton would have recognised this and seen him as the best potential victim. So let's next focus on our playable character for a second so we can build up a story. Mustard Man is clearly an alcoholic. Driving against oncoming traffic is probably a sign of that, but if you need more evidence, the fact he gets turned away from Junior's should be enough. Some people think that Junior's is another Freddy's restaurant, but I disagree. I think Junior's is a bar, as some people theorise, and that its inclusion is to hammer home this alcoholic fact. Considering there are other cars in the parking lot, it's very clear that he is being turned away. Only him, not everyone. While he's clearly not a great father, the alcohol won't help, and the fact he's willing to walk around his house in the rain just to get to his son's window is a massive indication of how messed up his mind is. Whether that's the alcohol or just his general personality is up for debate. But the fact that you aren't allowed to walk away from the son's door because he can't talk to you like that indicates that Mustard Man's mind is skewed in the moment, potentially from being under the influence of alcohol. Focusing on the son, I think that he used Freddy's as an escape from his home life, with an abusive father and another family member who seemingly couldn't care enough to properly help out. A restaurant filled with lovable characters would be the perfect place for a child to escape, and I mean that in a literal sense too, because it's outright stated that this isn't the first time he's run off. When we discover the footprints, we get this quote from Mustard Man, and so this doesn't come as a surprise to him. The fact he's done this before could be another reason why William may have targeted him, because he knows the father wouldn't immediately report the disappearance, and also that the child would willingly follow. Although I'm confident now that Midnight Motorist isn't about Afton, there are still some things that stand out. The main thing being the question of what is a mound of dirt? I can't answer that because I don't think it's a victim that William lured away. I think that if he was luring him for Remnant, then he wouldn't have hastily killed and buried him nearby and so quickly. If you have any theories on what you think the mound could be relating to this theory, then please do let me know. Together we can maybe figure it out and come to a conclusion. The purple car is what makes a lot of people think that Mustard Man is William, and to that I have a bit of an outrageous theory that I want to point out, just because some of you may like it, and who knows, it could turn out to be true, although I doubt this one. In the FNAF 1 newspaper clippings, it says that a suspect was convicted for the MCI. Convicted, not charged. That implies that he was actually put in prison for his crimes. Mustard Man drives a purple car, has history of abuse, is an alcoholic, and has relation to Freddy's through his son and his son's disappearance. So let me present this timeline of events. Mustard Man drives home one night, drunk out of his mind. His son's window is smashed and he assumes that he has run off to Freddy's. We see a three-toed footprint, indicating that William may have been the one in the area stalking Mustard Man's son and luring him away to Freddy's to kill him. And soon enough, the disappearance of his son is made aware to the police. They can't find the body, but they're made aware of the abuse allegations against Mustard Man and see him as suspect number 1 due to the alcohol abuse. Eventually, they have to let him go as they don't have enough evidence that he actually killed his son, but the public opinion is that he finally snapped. But that's not the truth. Mustard Man is devastated over the loss of his son and drinks the days away, bottle after bottle of beer. And then the MCI happens. William strikes again. And this time, the police know that someone in a purple car committed the crime. They put the pieces together and link their number 1 suspect from the last case, Mustard Man, to the MCI, with the car being the final missing puzzle piece. Now, this is a stretch, I'm very aware of that, but I thought some of you might like it. I've seen a lot of people trying to explain the purple car as a coincidence, so I thought I'd try and find a logical explanation, even if it is a bit out there. And police linking Afton's purple car to Mustard Man would make sense, as in the FNAF 1 clippings, it doesn't say how they identified the suspect through video surveillance footage, only that they had used it to help, so it doesn't have to be a face that they found on the video, but maybe something as simple as a vehicle. Thank you so much for watching, let me know if you found any of this video interesting and subscribe, it would mean the world to me, and you could be my 100th subscriber if you're watching this at the right time. But anyways, I'll see you next time.